Let us start with something that sounds completely backward. Having $2 to $5 million saved for retirement can actually be more financially stressful and more economically vulnerable than retiring with a modest pension and simple savings. That statement sounds impossible, but by the end of this chapter, you are going to understand exactly why it is true and why the financial industry almost never talks about it openly. The first thing you need to understand is what I call the no man's land problem. In America today, there are essentially three tiers of retirement wealth. There are retirees with modest savings who qualify for government assistance programs, subsidized health care, and various forms of social support. Then there are the truly wealthy, people with $10, $20, $50 million or more, who can absorb any financial shock, hire the best advisors, and self-insure against virtually every risk. And then there is the middle tier, the $2 to $5 million retiree. Too wealthy for government help, not wealthy enough for true financial invincibility, sitting in a gap where the safety nets do not reach and the risks are very real. The second problem is what inflation does to this range over a long retirement. $2 million is an impressive number today, but money loses purchasing power every single year. At a modest 3% annual inflation rate, your $2 million has the purchasing power of approximately $1 million after 24 years. If you retire at 62 and live to 88, which is increasingly common for healthy Americans, you will spend 26 years in retirement watching your purchasing power slowly cut in half. What felt like abundance at 62 can feel dangerously thin at 82. The third issue is the false finish line mentality that this wealth range creates. After decades of disciplined saving and investing, most people who reach $2 to $5 million feel they have completed the hard part. They relax their financial discipline, reduce their savings rate, and stop the aggressive wealth-building behaviors that got them here. This psychological shift happens quietly and naturally, and it is one of the most dangerous things that can happen to a pre-retiree in this range. The truth is that managing $2 to $5 million through a 30-year retirement requires just as much discipline and strategic thinking as building it in the first place. You did not work this hard to let complacency undo everything. Understanding this trap is the first step to avoiding it. If you have $2 to $5 million saved for retirement and most of it is sitting inside a traditional 401k or traditional IRA, I need you to pay very close attention to this chapter, because the American tax system has a specific and powerful set of mechanisms that target this exact wealth range. And most people walking into retirement have absolutely no idea what is waiting for them on the other side of their working years. Let us start with required minimum distributions. The government does not allow you to keep money inside a traditional retirement account forever. Once you reach age 73, you are legally required to withdraw a minimum amount every single year, whether you need the money or not. These withdrawals are called required minimum distributions, and they are fully taxable as ordinary income. At a portfolio value of $2 to $5 million, your annual RMD could easily range from $75,000 to $180,000 per year. That money gets added to your taxable income and can push you into the 24 or even 32% federal tax bracket instantly. You spent decades building that account, and now the government forces you to pull money out and pay taxes on it whether it fits your financial plan or not. Then comes the Social Security tax surprise that catches almost every retiree in this wealth range completely off guard. Most people assume Social Security is tax-free because they paid into it their entire working lives. It is not. Once your combined retirement income exceeds a certain threshold, up to 85% of your Social Security benefit becomes fully taxable. At the $2 to $5 million retirement level, your investment income and RMDs almost certainly push you past that threshold every single year. So you are paying taxes on money you already paid taxes on, twice taxed, and most people never saw it coming. Next is the Medicare premium surcharge known as ERM-AA. Medicare is not a flat-rate program. High-income retirees pay significantly more for Medicare Part B and Part D coverage based on their income from 2 years prior. At the $2 to $5 million retirement income level, this surcharge can add $3,000 to $10,000 per year in additional Medicare costs on top of your standard premiums. This is a tax most retirees in this range never budgeted for. The tax ambush is real, but knowing it is coming means you still have time to prepare for it strategically. Of all the challenges facing retirees in the $2 to $5 million range, healthcare is the one that financial planners fear the most. It is the expense that grows faster than inflation, arrives without warning, cannot be negotiated away, and has the unique ability to consume an enormous portion of your retirement savings in a very short period of time. Understanding this threat clearly and planning for it specifically is not optional at this wealth level, it is survival. Let us begin with the pre-Medicare gap. Medicare coverage begins at age 65. If you retire at 60 or 62 or even 63, you face a gap of 2 to 5 years, during which you must purchase private health insurance entirely on your own. For a healthy couple in their early 60s, private health insurance premiums can range from $2,000 to $3,000 per month. That is $24,000 to $36,000 per year in premiums alone. Before you pay a single copay, prescription cost, or medical bill. On a $2 million retirement portfolio that represents nearly 2% of your entire nest egg consumed by insurance premiums every single year, before Medicare even begins. Many retirees in this range simply did not plan for this expense, and it creates immediate financial stress right at the start of retirement. Then there is long-term care, the single most financially devastating healthcare risk in retirement. The average annual cost of a private room in an American nursing home today exceeds $100,000. Assisted living facilities average between $50,000 and $70,000 per year. These costs increase every single year. A cognitive decline diagnosis, a serious stroke, or a progressive illness requiring 3 to 5 years of specialized care can consume $300,000 to $500,000 of retirement savings. At the $2 to $5 million level, that is survivable, but it permanently and significantly changes the retirement you planned and the legacy you hoped to leave. The longevity factor makes all of this more complex. A 65-year-old couple in good health today has a very real statistical probability that at least one spouse will live past 90. That means your healthcare plan needs to cover 25 to 30 years of rising medical costs, increasing prescription needs, and growing care requirements. The healthcare expense curve does not flatten in retirement. It steepens every decade. Plan for healthcare as aggressively as you planned for saving. Your retirement depends on it. This is the chapter that makes people uncomfortable, because it is not about taxes or healthcare or government policy. It is about human psychology. It is about the way our minds process wealth and freedom and reward, and why those very natural human responses become one of the greatest financial threats facing retirees in the $2 to $5 million range. Here is the core issue. When you look at a retirement account balance of $2 or $3 or $4 million, your brain registers abundance. It registers safety. It registers the completion of a long and difficult financial journey. And that registration triggers a deeply human response. You begin to spend in alignment with how wealthy you feel, rather than how wealthy your long-term financial plan requires you to be. This is lifestyle inflation. And at the $2 to $5 million level, it is extraordinarily common and extraordinarily dangerous. Think about what retirement looks like for someone in this wealth range. They worked hard for 30 or 35 years. They sacrificed and saved and delayed gratification throughout their peak earning years. Now they are retired and they have millions of dollars. So they upgrade the house. They buy the luxury vehicle they always wanted. They travel internationally 2 or 3 times per year. They join the golf club. They help their adult children with down payments and their grandchildren with college tuition. They renovate the kitchen. They give generously to causes they care about. Every single one of these decisions feels completely justified, and individually, each one might be. But together, they create an annual spending level that can easily reach $120,000 to $150,000 per year after taxes. At that spending rate, a $2 million portfolio faces serious long-term sustainability questions, especially when you layer in inflation, healthcare costs, and the tax burden we discussed in Chapter 2. A portfolio that needs to last 30 years cannot sustain aggressive withdrawals in its early years without dramatically increasing the risk of running dry before you run out of life. The sequence of returns risk makes this even more dangerous. If the market drops 30% in the first 3 years of your retirement and you are simultaneously withdrawing large amounts to fund your lifestyle, you are selling investments at depressed prices and permanently reducing the capital base your entire retirement depends on. The damage done in those early years cannot be fully recovered even when the market eventually rebounds. Awareness is the first defense. Build your retirement lifestyle around your sustainable withdrawal rate, not your account balance. Every challenge we have covered in this video has a solution. The tax ambush can be legally minimized. The healthcare time bomb can be planned for and contained. The lifestyle inflation trap can be avoided with the right structure and mindset. And the unique vulnerabilities of the $2 to $5 million retirement range can be transformed into genuine long-term financial security with the right framework. This chapter gives you that framework in clear and actionable steps. The first pillar of the solution is the 3-bucket retirement system. This strategy divides your retirement assets into 3 distinct categories based on time horizon. Bucket 1 holds 12 to 24 months of living expenses in cash or stable short-term instruments. This bucket is your emergency cushion that ensures you never have to sell long-term investments during a market downturn to pay your monthly bills. Bucket 2 holds 3 to 10 years of projected expenses in moderate growth investments like balanced funds and dividend-paying stocks. Bucket 3 holds your long-term growth assets, equity index funds, real estate investments, and other appreciating assets that you will not touch for at least a decade. This structure protects you from sequence of returns risk and gives your wealth time to compound while you live comfortably off the first 2 buckets. The second pillar is a strategic Roth conversion plan. The years between your retirement date and age 73 when required minimum distributions begin represent a critical tax planning window. During this period, your taxable income may be lower than it will be once RMDs begin. Use this window to convert portions of your traditional IRA and 401k into Roth accounts each year. Pay taxes now at lower rates and build a growing pool of completely tax-free retirement income for your later years. This single strategy, executed properly over 10 to 15 years, can save retirees in this wealth range hundreds of thousands of dollars in lifetime federal taxes. The third pillar is dedicated healthcare planning. Treat healthcare as a fixed major budget line, not a variable afterthought. Research long-term care insurance options in your 50s before premiums become prohibitive. Understand your IRMA surcharge levels and plan your income accordingly. Build a dedicated healthcare reserve of $200,000 to $300,000 specifically earmarked for medical expenses. The fourth pillar is working with a fee-only fiduciary financial advisor who specializes in retirement income planning at this wealth level. The complexity of managing taxes, withdrawals, healthcare, and estate planning across a 30-year retirement requires professional guidance from someone legally required to act in your best interest. $2 to $5 million is enough, but only with a plan built to protect it.